20 verses. Thera. Adhimutta. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Adhimutta. Reborn ia this Buddha age as the sister's son of the Thera Sankiksa, he left the world under his uncle's tuition, and while only a novice, one era antship. And living in the bliss of fruition, he wished for full initiation into monkhood, and went home to ask his mother's leave. Now as he went, he fell in with highwaymen on the lookout for an offering to their deity, and they seized on him as a suitable sacrifice. He, thus assailed, stood undaunted and without blenching. Then the robber chief was amazed, and commended him, saying, "Of all the lot whom we, for God or wealth, have overcome in our time, there's not been one but has shown fear, trembled and clamoured much. But you, who are not having fear, no, whose face shows brighter bloom, why do you not lament when such a fearsome peril threatens you?" Adhimutta. No misery of mind, O chief, is there for him who has no wants. All fear have I transcended, since the bonds were destroyed by death of that which leads to rebirth. The truths are seen even as they really are. And hence in death there lies no fear for me. It is as a laying down the load I was having. Well have I lived the holy life, and well made progress in the Aryan path. No fear there lies in death, who puts an end to sorrows. Void of delight the forms of birth appear, like drinking poison one has thrown away. He who has passed beyond, from grasping free, whose task is done, sane and immune, is glad, not sorry, when the term of lives is reached. As one who from the slaughterhouse escapes. He who the ideal monk's order has attained, all the world over seeking nothing to own. As one who from a burning house escapes. When death is drawing near he grieves not all things soever which have come to be, and all rebirth wherever it is got. Nowhere in that is personal design. So has the mighty sage declared to us. And he who knows that things are even so, as by the Buddha it is taught, no more would he take hold of any form of birth. Then he would grasp a red-hot iron ball. Comes not to me the thought, it is I have been. Nor comes the thought, what shall I next become? Thoughts, deeds and words are no persisting self. Therefore what ground for lamentations here? To him who sees, as it really is, the pure and simple causal rise of things, the pure and simple sequence of our acts. To such an one can come no fear, O chief, that all this world is like the forest grass, and brushwood no man's property. When one by wisdom sees this, finds nothing that's mine, thinking, it is not for me, he grieves not. This body irks me. No seeker I to live. This mortal frame will broken be, and never another from it be reborn. Your business with my body, come, that do. Even as you will. And not on that account will hatred or affection rise in me. The young men marvelled at his words, and thrilled with awe, throwing away their knives they said, what are your honor's practices, or who is teacher to you? Of whose ordinance a member, have you gained this grieflessness? Adhimutta. My teacher is the conqueror knowing all, and seeing all, the Lord infinite. In pity, all the world's physician, he. And he it is by whom these truths are taught. Path to Nibbana leading, unsurpassed. Within his rule I have won this grieflessness. Now when the robbers heard the well-spoken utterance of the sage, they laid aside their knives, their arms, and some forsook that trade. And some pleaded that they might leave the world for holy life. They leaving thus, within the Buddha's welcome rule grew wise. The 7 factors practicing and worked hard for the forces 5. Trained in the powers, with hearts elate, happy they reached the goal. Thera. Parapariya. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Parapariya. Reborn in this Buddha age at Savatthi as the son of a certain very eminent Brahmin, he was called, when adult, after his family name Parapariya, the Parapariya. Well educated in Brahmin wisdom and accomplishments, he went one day into the Jita Grove Vihara, at the Lord's preaching hour, and took his seat at the fringe of the assembly. The Lord, meditating his character, taught the sutta, called practice of faculties, upon which Parapariya found faith and entered the monk's order. After learning the sutta by heart, he pondered over the meaning, thinking. In verses the meaning would appear so and so. Thus pondering on the subject of sense perception he established insight, and in due time won arahantship. Later he expressed his thoughts in verse as follows. To a monk came these inspirations. To the bhikkhu Parapariya, as he sat alone, secluded, world detached and meditating. What is there of course or order? What is there in right, or conduct? Which may make a man accomplish that which to himself is owing, nor work harm on any other? Lo! The parts and powers of humans make for welfare and for evil. Powers unguarded make for evil. Guarded powers make for welfare. One who guards parts and powers. One who tends parts and powers. He may do to self his duty, nor work harm on any other. If he go with unrestrained power of sight among sense objects, all the evil never discerning, he did not escape from sorrow. If he go with unrestrained power of hearing sounds about him, all the evil never discerning, he did not escape from sorrow. If in many kinds of odors he indulge, voluptuously, way of refuge never discerning, he did not escape from sorrow. Taste of sour and sweet and bitter, relishing and pondering over, cleaving to desires of palate, never his heart will be awakened. Lovely, luring things of contact, touching, feeling, pondering over, lust exciting, he impassioned, finds many forms of sorrow. Yes, who in these sense impressions cannot guard the mind recipient, sorrow by that will pursue him, even by way of all five senses, body full of blood and matter, and of many other foul things. So by human skill and wit is rendered fair like painted casket, that the bitter suffering from it shows as sweetly satisfying, bound to what we hold beloved, as a razor blade, that's hidden beneath thick crust of honey syrup, undiscerned by the greedy. He who dotes on form of woman, taste and touch and scent of woman, finds many shapes of sorrow. All that emanates from woman permeating all men's senses. This and that man's five gates open gainst all these to make a barrier. If a man have grit and valiance, he is wise and he is righteous. He is clever and far-seeing, for he may, at ease and cheerful, set himself to righteous duties. When immersed in temporal profit, if he shun vain undertakings, if he judge it right to shun them, he is earnest and far-seeing, is a work with good connected. Is his love set on the ideal, let him take the work and do it. Other loves that love surpasses. Many, manifold the methods by which man his fellows cheats. Attacking, killing, much afflicting, he with violence oppresses. As a strong man practicing woodcraft uses nail to remove a nail out, so the wise and virtuous monks use one power to strike out others. Faith and effort, concentration, mindfulness and wisdom plying, five by other five removing away, goes the saint from flaws released. He is wise and he is righteous. He has kept the rule proclaimed holy, fully by the Buddha. He is happy, he did prosper. Thera. Telakani. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Telakani. He was reborn in this Buddha age, before the Lord's birth, at Savatthi, in a Brahmin family, and named Telakani. Matured as to antecedents, he wearied of worldly desires, and left the world as a wandering recluse. Seeking for emancipation of spirit, he toured about, thinking, who is he in the world who has got beyond? And asking questions of recluses and Brahmins without receiving satisfaction. Meanwhile our exalted one had arisen, and was rolling the path wheel, working the good of the world. Him one day Telakani heard, and found faith, was initiated in monk's order, and not long after won arahantship. Sitting one day with bhikkhus, and remembering his own toiling and winning, he declared it all to them thus. Oh, the long days I busied about in thought, ardent to find truth that could set me free. No peace of mind I won, but up and down I moved about, asking of Brahmin and recluse, what man in all the world has got beyond? Who in the ambrosial has a foothold won? Whose doctrine can I to my bosom take? By which the highest I may come to know. Caught on a hook within, my spirit hung, even as a fish that swallows baited food. Captured I lay, as Vipakati once. The Asura, in mighty Indra's toils. I dragged my chains along, nor found release. From this unending source of grief and dole, is there no man on earth who can unloose my bonds, and make me know enlightenment? What Brahmin, what recluse can tell me how to break them off? Whose path can I accept, able to bear away old age and death? See this load, coil of perplexity and doubt, the mortal force of it, wearing the temper, stiffening the mind, and lacerating with a vast desire, fell offshoot from the bough of craving, due to forms of false opinion, twice 15. See, I say, how mightily about my breast this pressure crushes where it lies. The ruck of vain opinions not put off but quickened by foot hopes and memories. By this transfixed I stagger to and fro, and quiver as a leaf blown by the wind. It is from within me that has sprung the dart, from where swiftly is consumed this self of me, even this body with its sixfold field of contact, where it did proceed always. I see him not, that surgeon skilled, who can extract the dart and clean me of my doubts. By subtle probe, and not by other knife, can any one, without or knife or wound, leaving the members of me all unharmed, draw out this shaft that's stuck within my heart? Master of Dhamma, he, the best, who can the venom's fever harm disperse? Who, were I fallen in the deep, could show a hand and point where shallows slope to land? Yes, in a pool it is that I am plunged, a pit of dust and mire undrainable, extended wide with treacherous counterfeit, envy and overstrain, torpor and sloth, thunder of thought distracted overhead, and fetters cloud about my path. The rush of lust-born impulse and intent did there sweep me, to a septic's doom. And everywhere the streams are flowing by, and ever growing the creeper stands. Those streams whose strength avails to stop that creeper who can sever from its root? Make you a dike, good sir, to dam the streams. See that the mind's strong current ruthlessly dash you not hence like any log away. It was even so for me who sought in fear on this side for the distant shore, when he, the Lord, followed by his saintly followers, he the true refuge, and with insight armed, held out to me a stairway, strongly made and firm, made of the path's pure heart of oak, and to me toiling spoke, be not afraid. I climbed up to the terrace where the mind, alert and vigilant, applies itself. From there I could contemplate the sons of men, delighting in that sense of I and mine, in which I once was wont to nurse conceits. And when I saw the way, even the ship, on which to embark, and lived no more on self, it was then that I saw Nibbana's shore, the dart that sprang from self, offshoot of her, who to becoming leads, to stop all that. The perfect path the Aryan he taught, the knotted bonds long buried in my life, fixed up about me for so many years. The Buddha loosed and threw them off from me, and every poison canker cleaned away. Thera. Rathapala. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids.